So the Dill Pickle is here today with Shequanda from Juneteenth Freedom Fest. And we're here today to talk about the history behind Juneteenth and the importance and significance of celebrating Juneteenth Day. So thank you for being here, Shequanda.
Thank you.
Let's get started. How did your journey with Juneteenth Freedom Fest begin?
It's a unique journey. So for me, I grew up, born and raised in Harlem, New York. And as many of, you guys know, when people hear Harlem, they think of Black Mecca, right? It is like the epicenter for just Black culture, specifically African-American culture in New York City. And so growing up, believe it or not, in Harlem, we did not have one centralized place for Juneteenth. I actually learned about Juneteenth traveling to smaller events that were happening in Brooklyn and things like that. And so just growing up throughout the years, I had a chance to, when I was in my undergrad, I went to the University of Buffalo. Let's go Bulls. Buffalo has this, it's a very Afrocentric city. If you guys have never been to Buffalo, they still have the Underground Railroad. It's just a lot of, and so Buffalo was having this huge Juneteenth that had been happening since the late 60s, early 70s. And it was like the city was shut down for Juneteenth. And I'm, of course, like, listen, okay, Harlem, we can do this. We can do this. And I got together with some childhood friends in 2018, mid-20 and going into 2019 to create Juneteenth Freedom Fest NYC. And at that point, there still wasn't one centralized Juneteenth. There were, again, smaller things happening, very isolated things still happening throughout the boroughs, but nowhere where we can come together, right, as a united front throughout all 5 boroughs. And that was a vision. And we were supposed to launch in 2020, but, coronavirus, it got real. So, but through the horrendous, just all the things that we face as a community, continue to face, I think George Floyd was a tipping point. And the beautiful thing that came about that was the world got to see that we as a people are united. And there was a huge kind of awareness that went forward with Juneteenth. And so now we're launching in 2021 and working with other companies who are doing Juneteenth as well. And so Juneteenth Freedom Fest NYC was just birthed out of a need, really. And now we're coming full force this year in Harlem, New York, and we're very excited about it.
Wow, I didn't know that this was this is the inaugural celebration. Yes. That's inspiring. I remember growing up, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and going to the Juneteenth festivals. There's actually just one, but I didn't really understand the significance or the importance behind it until I got to college in Madison, which is ironically a sea of whites, Wisconsin. And then I learned that it's important to celebrate our emancipation, our liberation, right? But we don't really understand the cultural significance of Juneteenth because that history isn't taught in schools.
I just want to add, me being a native of Chicago, Juneteenth was not a big thing here. It was big in Milwaukee, Denver, Texas. I have family all over, but it wasn't a thing until I became an adult. And, that's how I learned more about it. And believe it or not, really with last year's social unrest due to George Floyd's death, which happens to be the year anniversary when he died, May 25th, 2020. That's when it became a bigger thing here in Chicago, because growing up, it may have been isolated in events, but it wasn't as big as, say, Black History Month. And Chicago is known for a lot of Black notable, historical figures, but Juneteenth, for some reason, wasn't a big thing here until very recently. So unlike Jessica's experience in Milwaukee, where it was, more in your face and prevalent, it wasn't a thing here. And I don't understand why. I mean, Now everything's about Juneteenth. So, Shequanda, I can kind of understand New York. You said it was kind of isolated in the boroughs, but not really in Harlem, correct?
Yes, we had similar experience, you and I, David, and that was kind of my experience growing up. It would be isolated, you know, people who were really grassroots, you know, movements, and they knew about it. But as far as like a big push, you know, where like Jessica said in Milwaukee, there was like one, and everybody went. You know what I mean? They all knew. Same as Buffalo, New York. So for New York City, especially for Harlem, it's just unusual. And so I'm not saying that there was none, there were, but they're smaller, isolated. It's not like a huge push for all 5 boroughs and surrounding areas to come out. And, you know, we're making some noise this year, and that is going to change.
That's good. I mean, you know, more awareness, and, you know, creates, you know, more activity and action. I mean, you know, so, I mean, I think that's a good thing. That's just something I'm wondering why the major cities didn't have the push like some of the smaller, you know, cities. But yeah, no, thank you for, you know, sharing that, you know, both sharing that.
For our followers who are unaware, can you talk about the history of Juneteenth?
Absolutely. So for those of you who are watching, and, you know, I'm sure now you've at least heard about Juneteenth and what is Juneteenth? Juneteenth is really the largest nationally and oldest recognized holiday where we are commemorating the emancipation of the freedom of all enslaved people in this country. And Juneteenth is so significant because the emancipation happened in January 1st of 1863. That's when, you know, Lincoln made his speech and it was declared. But it wasn't until 2.5 years later, on June 19th, 1865, were the people that were still enslaved down in places like especially Texas. And so there was a general by the name of Gordon Granger who was a part of the Union, and he had the task of physically going out to let people know that they were now free. So here we are 2.5 years later, June 19th, 1865, where the last group of enslaved Africans in this country were made aware down in Galveston, Texas, that they were now free. And so that's the day that we're commemorating. Juneteenth is short for June 19th. It's also known as Liberation Day or Freedom Day, because that's the day where truly everyone in America was free-ish. Right. We're still making progress towards that freedom. One of our mottos for Juneteenth Freedom Fest NYC is to celebrate, motivate, educate, and liberate. And so there's numbers of things that we'll be doing throughout the year, but for specifically Juneteenth, we set to, you know, celebrate the commemoration of the freedom of our ancestors. We set to motivate our attendees by showing them representation of Black pride, Black culture. We set to educate our attendees by a number of panels, workshops, and different resources that they will have at the event. And finally, we set to liberate our attendees by just limitations of the mind. And I think we play a big part of bringing an awareness, not only about Juneteenth, but awareness about our culture, right? When little kids come to a festival and they see there are people, you know, we're all together. And so what I like about a Juneteenth festival or any cultural festival is it highlights the culture in a way that we can dictate, right? Because the African American communities are always highlighted for our dysfunctions, right? It's always at the forefront, even though we know that there's dysfunctions in every community. So this is our time to go forward and highlight our advancements, our greatness, our uniqueness, our just dopeness. You know what I mean? Like Black people magic, you know, and this is our time. It's just, for me, I have 2 little girls. And it's something so empowering. And my background is in education. And I've worked in, low income, neighborhoods and rough neighborhoods. But it's something so empowering when a little child sees their first Black or brown teacher, and when they see someone that looks like them. And so when you go to a festival and you see all your people from all walks of life, you have the Adam Clayton Powells, you have the Bumpy Johnsons. I'm sorry, I'm like really into Godfather Harlem right now. So I'm doing all that. But you guys, so when you see everybody together, you're like, man, it's all of us, and we all bring a part of it. You have your socialites, your social activists in one spot. You have your religious spirituals in one spot, and then you have the neighborhood people, and all together working towards this common goal. Something powerful about that. And so you kind of come to Juneteenth, get recharged, celebrate with your family. It's a family affair, and be, strong enough to keep moving towards the fight towards freedom. That's really what we're all about.
Representation so matters, because when you see people who look like you can imagine yourself doing the same thing.
Mhm.
So my next question actually touches on that. As a Black woman, what advice would you give to other women, especially women of color, about starting an organization like Juneteenth Freedom Fest?
Oh, how long do how much time do I have? I would say this, especially to, this is really to all of my brothers and sisters, all of the POCs, but specifically to the women. I really encourage you, just be relentless. Be okay with moving with change. Whenever you're starting up anything, be outcome oriented. You know what I mean? Don't get too stuck on the ways or the methods, but be really dead set, laser focused on the outcome, because that'll help you to, that'll help you with your mission, and that'll help you stay in line for what you want to do, because things change, things happen. You will be told no. You will be said, oh, I like the concept. That was a big thing for me. I love what you're doing, but tell me about it after your first year. Let's see how the stats work. And so as I was building, this is a huge undertaking. So as I'm building, I need partnerships, I need sponsorships. But I didn't do it alone. I have a dynamic team behind me. They are giants in the field. It's a smaller team. There's about 9 of us on my directory board, but they are huge. And just getting your tribe together and you're all staying focused, that's going to be really important. So for my women, get your tribe, get the people that are behind you, but be relentless. If you get a no, find, you get a hurdle in front of you, get over that hurdle, get away. Don't stay stuck. If someone's telling you no, someone's not understanding your vision or what you want to do, then that's okay. Somebody else will. Just move around and just always keep it moving. If you find yourself being stuck, just remind yourself of the mission. I didn't have time. The many no's that I got from larger companies, I just didn't have time to wait. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. And my team were behind me like, yes, we don't know how, but you're going to get it done and we're going to be with you. And my other piece of strong advice would be, don't be afraid to cut out your own slice. And so what I mean by that is Juneteenth Freedom Fest, it's an organization that has a very specific niche, right? We have a very specific audience. And some people are just not going to understand that. Some people are not going to rock with that. And that's okay. But be okay with starting. And just know some people are some people like to ride the wave and others like to create it. If you're okay with being in the forefront of pushing whatever it is you're needing to do, then you can make it, you can do it. But just know you don't need 100 people behind you. Just be okay with moving forward, even if you must do it alone. And those who are behind you, your tribe, move with them. But as long as you keep moving, I think you can really do anything. Just keep it moving, girls. Be relentless.
I feel that. I'm so glad
Honey.
it's all in right now.
Listen, just
you're in Harlem, you say?
yeah.
I feel like I need to come out and visit, and we
All
need to
right, I'm
exchange
feeling that
energy.
too. Like I'm having a sister moment. Like I just want, you know.
Okay. Then my last question would be then how can folks get involved with and support Juneteenth Freedom Fest NYC?
Yes, thank you. We are looking for supporters. If you're not in the New York City area, you can always follow us, Juneteenth Freedom Fest NYC. We are on all platforms, Instagram and Facebook under that same name. If you go ahead and check out our website at nycfreedomfest.com, you can sign up to receive any information of what we're doing. If you're not in the New York area, you can view the full experience for the week. We'll be having virtual workshops, we'll be having virtual panels, and lots of fun surprises going on there. I do want to say that if you're in the New York City area, just come on out. We need some volunteers that day. We're going to be having an in-person event. Our event this year is a hybrid experience. So Juneteenth Freedom Fest NYC, the inauguration, is a week-long Juneteenth experience. We've partnered with lunchtable.com, which is just an amazing all-Black streaming company out of California. Streaming only on lunchtable.com. And we'll be doing our grand finale happening Saturday, June 19th, 2021 in Harlem, New York. We're shutting down the block. We'll be on 129th Street between 7th and 8th Avenues. We'll be there from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. So you can come on out. Make sure to register on our website, nycfreedomfest.com. You can register just to get a free ticket as well as to be a volunteer.
We have a rapid deal 5, being the Dill Pickle Food Co-op. So it's a rapid deal 5 questions. You can give me, one word or, a few words. It shouldn't take too much. Kind of, pull some stuff from you.
Wait, hold on, David. Wait, let me get myself ready. Okay. So you sure anything that comes out of this mind? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I think I'm ready.
You ready? Okay. One word or 2 words. Okay. So the first question is, what is your superpower? Give a emotion or a adjective that's your superpower.
Superpower, go-getter.
Okay. Who are some of your influences? It could be family, it could be activists, celebrities.
My influencers, oh God. I have 3. One will be my mom, definitely my mom. Mm-hmm. She's just such a, if we're talking about relentless and go-getter, Harlem hustler, that's my mom. Gosh, I have so many amazing women in my life that I want to say. Maxine Waters, she just embodies to me like, this is me. I'm in my space. Mm-hmm. I don't care where I am. This is me. Mm-hmm. I don't know. For me, I like to learn when I come across every person. Mm-hmm. What I mean, I'm just that type of person. I kind of take it all in. So I could just say I'm just influenced by my community at large. Black people at large. I've been helped along the way by a lot of aunties and uncles.
Okay. Okay. This would probably refer to you and Jessica simultaneously. What contributions generationally, because I'm assuming both of you all are millennials. Well, I know Jessica is, and I'm assuming you are. I'm Generation X. So what can be impactful for both of those generations to reinforce Juneteenth?
Impactful for Generation X as well as millennials, mm-hmm. Which, by the way, is different from Gen Z. Millennials get charged with a lot of stuff Gen Zers do. It's not us. I think it would be most impactful if we come out, if we, in this space, in this moment, be able to listen to each other, because the fight is still the same. And so for Juneteenth, one of the big pushes is voter registration. And I think it's going to be just listening, understanding that our methods may have changed, but the fight is still the same. And so being able to learn from one another, millennials listening to the Generation X listening to the millennials. And I think we should have a big push towards voter registration and making sure whatever we can do towards fighting voter oppression, that's like just the largest thing right now, that we can work together to do that.
Okay, so make it a little light and fun. What is a song or a lyric that would describe you and your mission and your activism, but specifically more about you, Shequanda Long?
A song that comes to mind is Alicia Keys' version of Cage Bird.
Okay.
And the lyrics go, you know, I know why the cage bird sings. Only joy comes from her song. She's so rare and beautiful to others. So why not let her be? Let her fly and let her be free.
That is beautiful. And my last question out of this Rapid Deal 5 is, what can we do as a community to educate other communities that are not of color about not just Juneteenth, but about our, community and culture?
Okay. David, that's really a loaded question, but a very necessary one. And I want to be very strategic in my answer. I think anyone who's considering themselves an ally to the African American community at large, and that wants to be a part of the conversation, who wants to work to create awareness, with Juneteenth and any other issues that are a plight for the African American community at large. I think it's twofold. I think the Black community should be open to having these conversations. But I think anyone who is considering themselves an ally to the African American community should also be open to having the conversation and open to receiving. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to come across in the ways that, it may necessarily, how I want to say, if you're an ally, you cannot dictate how that message will come across. You only have to be willing to hear the message for what it is objectively. And understand that the African American community is not looking for a savior. Most of us are open to allies, but if you're considering yourself a true ally, don't come in with a savior mentality. Just come in willing to, one, understand what the fight is, truly understand what it is, and come in having a full open heart to understanding the culture. Don't come in with your own preset notions, just your preset ideologies. Come in with an truly open mind. And I say if that can be done with a pureness and an earnestness, I think the message can come across. We've had some great allies over this last year with organizations coming forward and really wanting to know what the message is and how they can help. And so with that too, use your resources. If you really consider yourself an ally, use the resources that you have. If you have a platform to allow people to have safe spaces to speak, then push that forward. If you don't have a platform, but you have family that you can educate, and say, hey, no, you guys are looking at it. If you can, stop a racist joke, if you can stop a racist stereotype from being pushed forward, then do that. It starts with your level of influence. And some of us, our circle of influence are larger than others. So go what you can do, but come from an honest place. Don't come in saying, with your pictures and taking pictures and trying to prove something, like this is what you're a part of, but come in wanting to know, really wanted to understand, and get with organizations. Look for your local organizations, like your local NAACP organizations or different grassroots organizations that are happening in your area. Go to meetings, go to community board meetings. If you don't live in a predominantly Black neighborhood, go to their meetings and listen. Go to their meetings, their community board meetings, and listen in. Don't come in, with preconceptions, ready to speak. Just be ready to listen and just offer an ear and say, you know what? I have empathy. What can I do? Ask that. What can I do? And people will be ready to tell you, this is what you can do. If you're a part of a larger organization, you have some financial backing with you, put your finances, put your money to where your heart is. That can help. Work with the company like the Dill Pickle Food Co-op. They're working and pushing forward and doing different things in the community. Get where you can. Start off locally, and that can really make a huge, huge change.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
it was a loaded question, but
No,
very necessary.
sorry, it wasn't really rapid fire.
Was it pretty rapid?
Thank you for that question, David.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Thank you for asking that question.
Oh,
Folks need to hear that message.
Yes.
They need to
It's
listen.
important.
Most importantly,
it's
and
important.
educate themselves.
Yep. So I don't have anything else right off the top of my head, besides make sure that you go to the Juneteenth Freedom Fest in NYC and support Shequanda Long, this wonderful sister who is doing big things, and we appreciate you, being part of our platform. And thank you for having me and Sharif, be part of your panel. We were honored. Thank you so much for that, and we really appreciate everything that you've done.
Thank you, David, so much. Thank you, guys. I really, really appreciate it. David, Jessica, it was a pleasure to meet you and see your beautiful face.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Shequanda. Bye.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Peace,
have a great
love.
night or
Bye.
great day.
You too.
Bye.